I am Raymond Knox, a 42-year-old proprietor of an auto business, and I have never felt self-conscious about my blue-collar hands. These hands restored engines, adjusted suspensions, and cleaned grease off the aspirations of novice and seasoned drivers, commuters. I was quite proud of that. Till Thanksgiving. Pride. I learned something new that day. Shame doesn't necessarily come from having to swallow the hard lump of humiliation. Failure can occasionally be presented to you as a thin, light paper plate. A plate intended to support weight. It was never intended to support Clarissa, my wife, who had always attempted to maintain a certain distance. For years, I disregarded the small cues between my world and hers, the courteous corrections when I said ain't in front of her father. The way each time we went to see her family, she insisted I wear the one blazer I had. I didn't realize that she wasn't trying to help me blend in. She was trying to make me invisible. Thanksgiving was being held at her sister Jenna's expansive, exquisitely designed home in Chestnut Hill, a location where napkin rings contained heirlooms and hors d'oeuvres required pronunciation guides. Even after being cleaned and polished, my ancient Chevy Silverado was still too noisy for Clarissa's taste. In the back seat, the kids, Ari and Miles, were speculating about how many pies would be served. I joked, hopefully more than the quantity of taunts I'll receive this time. Clarissa didn't chuckle. As we entered the cozy residence, there were fleeting air kisses, broad smiles, and a chorus of, "I'm so happy you could make it." But behind the cold politeness, the voices of Clarissa's mother and sisters vanished into the kitchen. It was obvious. I was not one of them. Ascending in harmonious judgment, I helped Ari and Miles hang their jackets and told them to go greet their relatives. I was headed to the dining room when Jenna stopped me. "Oh, Ray," she whispered, her smile as piercing as glass. "We actually have a wonderful little setup for you in the garage," she added with that overly sweet tone that always felt like a pat on the head. I blinked at the garage. She laughed. "We assumed it would be cozier, less formal. And of course the kids can join you. Loud enough for everyone to hear. He's a mechanic. He's used to scraps. Genuine laughter. Not the kind you fake." I stood there while they manufactured politeness because they found it amusing. No one intervened to stop it. Like some hired help who had overstayed his welcome, I was handed 2 pie tins and a bottle of ginger ale. I glanced across the room. I could tell Clarissa had heard it. Her hand hesitated at the wine bottle, but she didn't turn. She didn't say anything. Didn't move. I tightened my jaw. I could have made a scene. I could have shouted something. But Ari came over to me. Miles trailed closely behind, pulling a folding chair. Ari's large brown eyes were searching me, trying to understand. "Is it really in the garage, Dad?" I nodded slowly, as if it were a punishment. "Yeah, bud. It is." She looked puzzled. "But why?" I knelt down. I set the meal on the ground. "Sometimes, people don't know where to put you when they don't understand you," I said, touching her shoulder. That smile I faked about split my face in two. "But it's okay. You and I, we make any place feel like home." We followed Jenna to the garage. She opened the door like she was doing me a favor. The stench of gasoline and paint thinner hit us immediately. A milk crate, 2 rusted chairs, and a folding table wrapped in a mismatched piece of plastic awaited us. No candles. No warmth. Just stillness and oil smears. The turkey was dry. The beans came from a can. No sides, no gravy. Paper plates. Ari sat quietly. Miles prodded his food. No one came to see how we were doing. I sat there with that thin plate in my hand, more fascinated by a stray bolt on the floor than the food in front of me. One part of me whispered, "You are not a child. You're not being told again that you'll never be worthy of more." But then I saw my children looking at me, trying not to cry, hoping someone would say this was a mistake, but it wasn't. It was intentional. every unspoken choice, every misdirected look. I laughed every time a plate wasn't set on the main table. And something inside me broke. Not anger, not even sadness, just finality. The garage smelled like gasoline and past regrets. I had been thankful for scraps long enough. I sat on a rickety metal chair that swayed every time I shifted. The folding table wobbled, its plastic floral cover tried too hard to be cheerful. There were only 3 plates. No placemats, no candles, no music. Ari sat where home should have been. Her fork untouched, gaze vacant. She was staring into nowhere, and I recognized that expression from the invisible spot on the wall behind me. The same one I wore when I was her age. She wasn't angry. She was ashamed. Her father's silence was louder than fists. And worse, at 13, she was trying to shield me from it. Miles was wielding his plastic fork like a sword, poking at the beans, humming softly, a strange little tune I didn't know. Maybe to stop himself from crying. He was 10. No child should feel this. I grabbed my fork, bit into the dry, flavorless turkey. Even the cranberry sauce was rubbery like it had been canned years ago. It all tasted like sawdust from 2 Thanksgivings ago. I chewed, gently, then put the fork down. "I'm okay," Ari said, blinking out of her reverie. She looked at me, paused. "I'm used to it." That cut deeper than anything Jenna said. Miles stopped prodding his plate, and I will never forget what he said. "They treated you like a joke." It hit him then, wrapped in his lap, that this wasn't just a bad Thanksgiving. This was our story, a memory that would revisit them every holiday, and I hated that I didn't see it sooner. "I'm not a joke," I whispered, more to myself. Ari nodded. "No, but they treat you like you don't matter." I glanced at the little dirty window framing the back of the house. Clarissa was laughing inside, wine glass in hand, her face bright with conversation. Jenna leaned against the counter, mother beside her. The room glowed, warm, and none of it reached us. Clarissa hadn't once come to see how we were doing. I tried not to get angry. Tried not to picture myself asking aloud, standing in that perfect dining room, why was it okay to exile me like I didn't belong? But they didn't say, "Get out." They just erased me. Miles looked up. "Do we have to stay?" I looked down at him. "You want to leave?" He nodded. "It doesn't feel like Thanksgiving." He was right. It wasn't family. It was punishment wrapped in good intentions and hors d'oeuvres. They didn't want me there. Not really. So I stood up, slowly. The chair scraped the concrete floor like a protest. "All right," I said. "Let's go." Ari looked up, bewildered, but she didn't ask again. Miles took his coat. I took the foil-covered dishes we brought from home. Ari picked up the untouched pie. Outside, the night air slapped my face like a dare, a reminder. Those dishes were made with real love. The house stayed lit, buzzing with energy that said, "We're just fine, without you." And maybe they were. They didn't see me as a husband, or a man, or a father, but that was their problem. I helped Miles into his seat, asked Ari, "You okay?" She nodded. I closed the door carefully. "Yeah, I'm glad we're leaving." Me, too. One last glance at the house, where my marriage quietly and brutally told me I wasn't enough. I climbed into the driver's seat, turned the engine, saw myself in the rearview mirror, and for the first time in a long while, I liked what I saw.